I ran a marathon as Forrest Gump.
Mama said these were my magic shoes.
But this video is not going to be just a bunch of obvious jokes. Technically, aren't all of your videos a bunch of obvious jokes? That is my inner critical parent, and he's a real Oh! Yeah, so this video is more about my splits in my sub-3 attempt in the Buffalo Marathon and my marathon mistakes. Oh, I love marathon mistake videos. What's the first one? Mistake number 1. Don't try to PR race and also off while dressed like Forrest Gump. Okay, look, the primary purpose of this channel is for entertainment, all right? And as a 409 marathoner, while I'm not gonna help you qualify for the Olympics, I do enjoy running fast for me, okay? But it's just gotta be one or the other. Like, I can't do both.
Maybe both. Maybe both of them is happening at the same time.
Like, if I try to do both of them at the same time, I feel like I'm less likely to hit my goal time, and I'm also gonna miss out on a lot of great jokes and entertaining videos.
I got about 4 run forced. Somebody yelled shit happens.
Are you gonna cover the splits or what? On to Cincinnati, on to the splits. All right, spoiler alert, I did not come close to hitting my sub-3 goal, and along the way, along my splits journey, I will drop hints or clues as to why. Who's clues, blues clues. The first 5K was a 6:52 pace. Now, I really wanted to be more around a 6:56 or 6:57 pace, but it wasn't a huge deal. Mile 1 was a 7:02, mile 2 was a 6:54, so these are slower than goal pace. Mile 3 was a 6:40. Okay, now 6:40, that's like a little hot, and I was literally a little hot with the beard and the wig and everything, but I was keeping my eye on the heart rate, and it was fine. It was a little elevated, as to be expected. It wasn't that big of a deal. What was more concerning was that the perceived effort was just slightly a little too much. And I want to talk about this real quick. Bro, I don't know if anyone's ever told you this, but you do have a problem with brevity. They say that when you start up a YouTube channel, you should make the videos that you yourself would want to see. How to do the front splits in 28 days? No. Anyway, I love marathon recap videos, okay? And I started watching them through Kafuzi, and then I watch marathoners run them, scot-free running, Floberg, because you see, I have no history of running, and then I started running during the pandemic. So I have so many questions. What does it feel like on mile 1, on mile 6, on mile 9? I'm not good with directions. Like, what if I take am I gonna get lost out there? Like, I have no idea. I wanna know what's going through people's heads. And Floberg, he just broke 250. His name's Eric Floberg. I just call him Floberg. He said that he had a lot of self-doubt throughout that marathon. Mile 6, mile 9, and I thought, okay, going into this Buffalo Marathon, I made a commitment. My feelings. Oh, in mile 2, when it felt like a little bit of effort, I was like, yo, you, your mom watches this. And also on training runs, sometimes whenever I've gone 0 to goal pace, like the first couple miles do kind of feel like, all right, I'm really moving here. It does feel like something, but I know by mile 5 or mile 6, it just, I get numb to it, and it really doesn't feel like that big of a deal. So I knew it would wear off. Okay, from 5K to 10K, I was still on a 6:53 pace. Mile 4 was a 7:02, mile 5 was a 7. So in mile 5, here comes clue number 2. You gotta think. So I fell down.
I just ate it. Oh, I tripped over nothing. It happens.
And look, this is 1 week later. So it was worse than, you know, it felt, at the time, I just felt like I, you know, tumbled and just kept going, put my wig back on, my beard, and I just went. And I was super motivated to run. I think mile 6 was a little faster because of it. Mile 6 was a 6:46. In looking at the footage and watching where my foot comes through my gait, it is so low. Like, I would call it lazy, but I think the more appropriate word would be tired. Anyway, so mile 7, mile 8, it was a 6:44 and a 6:52. So then I get to mile 9. Now mile 9 was like a turning point. It felt like I was now working myself up into a race effort. It did feel like work. I looked down, my heart rate was 174, and that's just a little too high for that early on because I started having to do the math. It was like the first time I was aware that I was running a marathon. You know, I wasn't just going. It was like, wait, 9, okay, 4 more till 13, 9 times 3, 27. I'm a third of the way. I started thinking about the race as I was putting in this effort, and I was like, okay, well, I need to chill out a little bit. Let me just ease up a little bit because I can't go in the threshold this early. So mile 9 was a 7:01, mile 10 was a 7:02. All right, so mile 11, here comes clue number 3. So mile 11 was a 7:06, but I couldn't have told you that at the time because mentally I was not sharp. I was fatigued. I was all over the place. I was on autopilot. Now a lot of the mile markers were hiding behind the aid stations, so I missed them a lot of times, and I'd look down and it was like, well, I've been running for a mile and a half, right? And then I would hit the lap button. My laps were all over the place. So mile 11 to 7:06, I'm like, shit, I gotta speed up. And then I'd speed up and run a 6:54 for the mile 12. Like I'm running and I see that the chute at the halfway point, there's the 13.1 half marathon chute, and it's color coordinated, which is separate from the marathon, and there's a split. And I remember thinking like, whoa, I'm halfway already. And that mile was a 7:11. And I look down and I'm like, well, what is my pace? And my pace is a 6:57. Okay, so this puts me in, and little did I know, a 1 hour, 30 minute, and 58 second half split. And this is exactly what happened. This is exactly where I was at the Woodlands Marathon in March of this year. Timeout. All right, I can sum up the back half of this race for you. I'm gonna just put up a couple of pictures for you to look at. So here's the Woodlands, and look for mile 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. You see that I pick up the pace, the heart rate goes up, I get much faster, then I hit the wall because I had not done enough training for it. But now look at the Buffalo Marathon. As you can see, my pace slowed and so did my heart rate. At the Woodlands, my heart rate climbed up to about 178. In Buffalo, I couldn't move my limbs fast enough or move hard enough to get my heart rate up to that number. I had no energy. So mile 15 was a 7:26, at which point I decided to take a calf. And then the following miles were 7:10, 7:01, and 7:14. It was at this point that I called my wife to see if I had any chance still of getting a PB, because despite not wearing a jacket over my bib, the chip did not track me, so I wasn't getting updates. I didn't know where I was in their system, and the app was down. So we did some math. She did the math. She is a math teacher. PB is out. Okay, this is the most important part of the video. Please grab a notepad, take notes, use your phone, write this down. My wife teaches high school, and I also have a middle schooler. And there's a word out there, and it's called Riz. This is short for charisma. And in my day, we called it game. This is the opposite of Riz. And yet my wife loves me despite my goofiness. She does appreciate our wit. Oh, is that what we're calling it now? Marathon recap. Marathon, right. Okay, mile 20 to 26, basically 8-minute miles, coasting all the way to the finish in a 3 hour, 13 minute, and 22 second time. No sub 3, no PB, no BQ. Just a lot of letters. So what happened? I think the big takeaway is that, you know, they say not to try anything new on race day. You shouldn't try anything new on race week. A lot of that stuff was out of my control. It was a really stressful week kind of leading up to it. You know, work, family, kid drop off, all the things leading to a Friday morning departure at 5:20. So I had to wake up at 4 in the morning. To get to Buffalo, we stayed in an Airbnb to save some money. There's no central AC. I'm used to having central AC. We opened the windows, and all the dry air, my throat hurt. I didn't run. Now we'll get into like the 3 main things. Here are the 3 main mistakes I think that I made that I'm learning from this one. Number 1, I over tapered. So if you look at my Strava, you'll see in this week, I missed 3 days. In the 10 weeks prior to that taper week, I only missed 1 day completely, and the only other day that I did not run, I cross-trained. So it was a big shift. Not only did I reduce my mileage, but I was also reducing the number of times that I was running, and on race day, my legs were not there. Okay, mistake number 2. And mistake number 2 and number 3 kind of go together, so we'll just do number 2. The mistake I made was in training. I never once woke up in the middle of the night and went for a training run in preparation for Buffalo, because in Buffalo, the race start time for the Buffalo Marathon is at 6:30 a.m. Now, if you've run a marathon or a race, you know, like, you've got to wake up a couple hours before the race start time to get in the fuel, hydrate, go to the bathroom 2 or 10 times, and then, you know, make your way down to the race start, warm up, right? So I wake up at 4:45 a.m. Eastern time, which for me in Texas would be 3:45 a.m. Not once in training did I wake up at 3 something in the middle of the night and ask my body to perform a training run. So how could I expect to show up on race day, wake up in the middle of the night and ask it for sub 3? And mistake number 3 is that I forgot my cold brew. I forgot my cold brew in the fridge. Forgot it. Now I realized that when I was running down to the start line as a warm-up, I had so much energy from like the race day and the excitement, so I thought, well, maybe I'll be fine. You know, maybe this will actually keep my heart rate a little lower because I don't have the caffeine to, you know, jack it up. But in training, I always have cold brew, and then on race day I didn't. So I think all of those add up to me being physically and mentally just tired. And I've been training for like a year straight and racing, so I am overall very physically and mentally tired. How do I feel about it and what is next? Well, I'll tell you how I feel about it. Super, super, super sad. But I'm not devastated or anything, which is good. I think that's a healthy sign that I have a good relationship with running. There's always going to be more races. There just won't be any more races anytime soon for me because I'm going to be transitioning into a base building phase. I have signed up for Summer Grit, which is a Believe in the Run thing for the month of July, and in August I will also be running tons of just low heart rate. In June, July, half of August, I will do about 6 weeks, I believe, of some speed work, after which I'm gonna hop into a marathon training block for the 2024 Chevrolet Houston Marathon. And for that marathon, I do plan on hiring my old coach Hernan because, hey, maybe that was marathon mistake number 4, is I didn't have a coach. Maybe it could have prevented some of that derailing towards the end. And also because Hernan did coach me to my half marathon PB of a 1:23:58 in the Austin 3M half marathon. So as the kids say, he does have the receipts, but does he have the riz? If I put my face closer to the camera and when I say thank you and that I appreciate all the support on here and on Strava, then it means that I mean it more. So thank you for all the support on here and on Strava. More to come.